Good afternoon, everyone. John Lamb down here at Las Vegas, Nevada with Kelly Stewart. We set through the morning and we got some reporting to do what happened in jury selection. Pretty boring, but there are a few interesting facts and we've got a long week ahead of us. So you'll be getting some reporting throughout the week every day down here of what's going on. All four defendants were in the courtroom today. That's something we didn't know was going to happen yesterday. With what happened with the visits out there in Henderson, we were not able to see Ammon or Ryan Bundy, but today all four of them were there. All four of them were dressed in prison clothes, kind of a bright orange, red color, and Ammon and Ryan still had PATRIOT prison uniforms on that said detainee, where Cliven and Ryan Payne, they had the same color, the red, but it was from Henderson Detention Center instead of PATRIOT. So even the judge did not get that cleared up herself. She kept calling all of them, that all of them was wearing PATRIOT prison clothes, and she did not really know why. But but all four defendants were there. There was a few arguments and motions. First thing, before the potential jurors were called in, and Morgan Philpott made a few points. One thing he made on record today is that he said that this shooting in Las Vegas that just happened here earlier in October, he feels and his team feels that it was directly involved with this trial. And he wanted to elaborate more. The judge shut him down and said, we'll discuss that later. But he says that he felt, and his legal team felt, that this shooting was involved and this trial should be put off, and he was going to file another motion later today to be heard at one point this week to try to put the trial off further. We know that Friday there's supposed to be a motion heard to dismiss the whole trial. So we're kind of just seeing what's happening here, but there's a lot of things happening. We brought in like 76 potential jurors a day that are being questioned, and things are going on, and we're going to see if this, which one of them jurors are going to be allowed to stay, or if any of these 76 jurors. We have several hundred we're going to go through this week, and we'll see which one of them are actually going to be on this trial. They did read off 1,145 potential witness names, a lot of them. So I got 3 pages just that I wrote down myself. Glenn Beck is one of them, Michael Dennis Lynch again, Michelle Fiore, we've got Lombardo, the sheriff of Clark County. And one thing that was interesting there, before I forget that, is that Lombardo is a witness here, and he's going to be brought in, as he has been before. Juror number 1, the very first juror on the list, is friends with Lombardo, even had dinner with him this past Sunday, and he's still sitting on as a potential juror at this moment. You can't make this kind of stuff up. This is the kind of thing that they should have caught that before he was ever called in, that he was friends for the last several years. He goes to the shooting range with Lombardo. And here he is on the witness list. I know you wrote out a bunch of names.
The other potential juror that stood out to me was the one who works at the assessor's office, and her boss is on the witness list, and the judge asked if that would be a problem for her to be unbiased in judging the testimony of her boss, and she said no, she didn't think she would be unbiased when she's judging the testimony of her own boss. I don't know about you, but I'd have a very difficult time accusing my own boss of lying on the witness stand if I was a juror. So I think that one should have been pulled immediately as well.
That is juror number 6. Right. So the very first few handful of jurors, juror number 1, juror number 5, juror number 6, right there on the very first row, were already had signs of bias and have signs of problems here with this case. And you know, how can that happen in a potential of hundreds and thousands of jurors that have been pulled from Clark County?
They've already been pre-scanned, so some of these jurors should have already been pulled out and shouldn't even be in the courtroom today.
I have a list of the juror numbers that the defense team is asking to get rid of before we ever even started talking to these jurors. Juror number 6, juror number 7, juror number 26, 34, 45, 46, 51, 49, 71, 66, 64, those here, the defense team asked for those jurors to be removed and excluded before we ever started. They said if these jurors are asked the wrong question, they could taint the rest of these potential jurors because they already have showed signs of bias. One had, like we said, dinner with Lombardo just this past Sunday, and he's still sitting among these jurors and these other potential jurors. He even said over, I noticed he turned and talked to juror number 2 during this after they had found out that he had had dinner with Lombardo last Sunday, and he's sitting there talking to juror number 2. This should have never happened. They should have been pulled, but the judge again allowed these potential biased jurors to sit among the other jurors, and so that's just some of what we're seeing. Each one of the defendants, Cliven, Ryan Bundy, and Ammon, and Ryan Payne, were all asked to why they were wearing their jail clothes, and each one of them says they just chose to. They were all shackled in the courtroom today in front of these potential jurors. The judge, Ryan Bundy, made a good point about that. He says he was requesting his shackles to be removed before the potential jurors come in, and the judge says, well, you're wearing jail clothes. I don't think it really matters much. They can tell you're a detainee and you're in custody, so we're going to leave you in shackles.
Which why that's so important to remember is because you can be detained because you're either a threat to the public, or you could be detained because you're a flight risk. So simply wearing their jail clothes does not mean that they are a threat, they're dangerous to the public. While having shackles on your legs would imply that you are a threat, and you cannot even be present with marshals all around you without being restricted by these chains. So I think that creates a huge bias right there for these jurors to see these men all in the leg irons. I think that's absolutely wrong.
The judge did make one point there. She said that your actions last week, I feel that you should have to wear them today, but I may make up my mind tomorrow if things go good. She's punishing them and making them wear leg irons, not because they're a safety risk, because it's a punishment. She's trying to prove a point with them. She's trying to humble them down to where they're submissive to her. And she keeps telling them over and over again, you will be put in the holding cell if you do anything out of the ordinary, out of wrong, or look at the back of the audience. They were under strict orders today not to look at none of us observers in the audience, or even talk to us or smile at us.
I did notice at the end, though, when they turned around to show respect to the jurors as they left, I noticed how dark Ammon's eyes were. His eye sockets were really sunk in compared to some of the others. And, I mean, almost like they were black eyes. I don't think they were black eyes, but that's how dark they looked. And all of them from the back, of course, look horribly thin. Cliven Bundy looks like he's aged 30 years, which, you know, that's a lot when you're already in your 70s. Since he's been detained, he's deteriorating rapidly, which is, you know, a very important reason why our Bill of Rights grants us bail, so that we can actually adequately be out preparing for trial unless we have committed a capital offense or murdered somebody. But these men are being treated as though they've murdered somebody, and that is going to hinder them heading into this trial, not being as prepared, being malnourished, looking the way that they do. It's really an injustice right now to our Bill of Rights and to our country, the way that these detainees are being taken care of.
So hopefully here after lunch, we'll find out which of these potential jurors are going to be released and not being used, and then we're going to get another batch of 70 to 80 new jurors, potential jurors, to do the same thing we did this morning, and we're going to try to do that every day this week through Wednesday and maybe Thursday. And the judge said if it needs to be, we'll even go into Monday selecting these new jurors. We did get a date kind of schedule for when all court's going to be, all the way in through February. They were planning up into as far as February the 20th for this court date, possibly the last. She was preparing these potential jurors to prepare for that. And so the month of November, the whole month of December, January, and all the way almost through February possible. We've got several dark days. We've got December 4th. If anybody's planning on traveling here during that time, December 4th, that whole week is dark. We won't have any court. Other than that, there will just be just different days around the holidays, such as Thanksgiving or Christmas. But December 4th, that whole week is dark. Anytime there's a dark day, the following day, such as we won't have any court on the Monday following that. But Tuesday, the following Tuesday, we will start at 10 a.m. after a dark day on every single day that the following day is dark. So that's about all I have. I don't know, do you have anything else, Kelly?
I could read off just a few of the names that surprised me that were on the witness
Yes.
list, maybe. And I also want to point one thing out. Our law enforcement used to be to protect the people. And I want to point out to you guys right now that when I got out of my car, there was maybe 60 officers in SWAT that were around the back of the building and 2 blocks down. And then here right now around the courthouse, we have officers everywhere, armed, surrounding us, walking everywhere, looking us up and down, making sure we're not doing anything wrong. And as somebody who's always been a law-abiding citizen and really wants to see police officers as here to protect me, it's becoming more and more clear that the police officers that are here on site are really here to protect the establishment. They're here to protect this courthouse. They're here to protect any tyranny that's going on inside of this courthouse, and they will quickly remove the people if we start to do anything outside of their codes and regulations. And so just as somebody from the public, if you come to witness this trial, expect to have a heavy, heavy police presence everywhere around this courthouse, and understand that as much as we want them to be here to keep us safe and protect us, you will likely feel very intimidated. So watch what you do, watch what you say, watch what you wear, because they are looking for any reason to remove people away here from the throne that they've got established at this federal courthouse.
What were some of them names?
So the names, they had Adam Kokesh,
so
they had John Lamb
on the witness list, so we're going to see how that goes. I might not be able to attend this trial, but
Right.
we're going to try to change that, because
Right.
I'm trying to report here.
Yeah, since this is an ongoing conspiracy, they can truly add anybody to this list that they want. They had Deb Jordan, Bill Keebler, Gary Hunt. They did say Brian Cavalier, Blaine Cooper, Jeanette Finicum.
Anthony Bosworth.
Anthony Bosworth. Here's something good, just to interject. Maxine Bernstein is here from the Oregonian, from
Yes.
Oregon Live, and I told her, I said, I am so happy to see you. She said, don't get too excited, I won't be here every day. But she said she's going to be here as much as she can, and if we let her know ahead of time, when big witnesses are taking the stand, she will make sure to be here, which that really helps. The more attention you can bring to a situation, we all know that sunlight is the best disinfectant, so having her here, at some point it doesn't matter if somebody is maybe a little bent one way or the other when they're reporting, that's what we want to see. So she's going to be getting attention all the way back down into Portland for us, keeping the topic of the Bundys and the federal overreach and the land issues in the forefront of everybody's mind. So I was really, really happy to see that. And I'll see if there's any other names.
Some of these other names, we've got Lou Dobbs, we've got Brandon Curtis, we've got Doug Gillespie, which we know who is, Michelle Fiore, Michael Flynn again.
We got Daniel P. Love, which,
Yes.
you know, all of our hearts leapt with joy, even if he won't be called. Of course, we love just hearing that he is a potential witness. Of course, should be the lead witness in this case, but he probably won't be. There was Harry Reid, Cope Reynolds, Ken Rhodes, Stewart Rhodes, Mark McConnell, which, of course, hearing his name in court made my stomach just turn, because the last time we heard his name in court was in Oregon when we learned he was a federal informant, or an informant for the FBI, surrounding the assassination and the ambush back last January in 2016 from the refuge. Dwayne Schrock, Jamie Spears, Carol O'Shaughnessy, Eric Parker, Jason Patrick, Ron Paul, Renee Powers, Victoria Sharp, Shelley and Tony Shelton. I mean, over 1,000 people. One reporter Alex Jones. One reporter next to me whispered to the other one and said, if you ain't on this list, you ain't nobody. Because they have everybody on this list.
1,145 names were read the day.
Yeah, they said, I've never seen a witness list like this. I've never seen a case like this that we had to take this many hours to go over the potential witness list.
Jason Patrick's even on this. So we got a long list of names.
We've got Sheriff Mack, Angus McIntosh,
barely touching Gavin Syme.
Nathan Syme, since they were both there. Yeah, lots of people.
So we got a lot. So I guess that wraps it up for really what we heard and seen in there today. We'll try to have you one more live stream this afternoon after the last of this is all over with. It's going to be pretty boring the next few days, it looks like. We're probably going to go over the same thing that just happened today for the next 3 to 4 days. And then Friday is going to be the really big day. And that's when some really important hearings and motions are going to be heard, and that could change this whole case just on Friday. So let's pray for that day. Yep. Another thing, I talked to Carol Bundy shortly. You've seen the pictures possibly on Facebook of the flagpoles out at the Bundy Ranch. And Carol, they're going to get some new flags, or if somebody has some nice big flags they want to donate maybe out there, we're going to have a day that we're going to have a group of people go out there either on a Friday or a Saturday, and we're going to raise some flags up on those flagpoles. So if anybody wants to be a part of that or has some nice flags that we could use out there at the Bundy Ranch, that'd be welcome. There's 2 great big 100-foot plus flagpoles out there. I know we want to get probably a Nevada, state of Nevada flag and hang out there, and what's what Cliven wanted. So if you got any suggestions, or we'll try to let you know the day we do that, but probably it's one Friday or one Saturday we're going to plan that. So other than that, keep us in prayer. Come down here if you can and support these defendants. It's going to be a long next 3 to 4 months, and we can use all the support you can give us. Yep.
That's it. God bless, guys.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're getting a late start here this evening. We just got out of court. We have a ton of stuff to tell you. We told you it would be boring in there, and it pretty much is, but we have some very interesting things that came about on these jurors, and I'm going to let Kelly go through some of these notes here. Some very, very exciting stuff. We feel really good about the day. But go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, you know, one thing I think I felt the most was the unity in the defendants. There were so many times that Ryan Payne's legal representation stood up and defended and called out things that were overlooked about Ryan Bundy. And it really was just, there was so much unity amongst them. It felt like the first trial in Oregon, and I haven't felt that since the first trial in Oregon. There was 2 trials in Oregon. This is now the 3rd one here in Nevada, and that was to me a really good sign. Also, the fact that that the jurors are all very engaged and being very honest, and everybody's getting to ask really great questions. I really feel a not guilty verdict coming on. I know we've been saying that. I believe it. I don't think any of these jurors are going to be able to listen to any of the Bundys or Ryan Payne for more than about 10 minutes without wanting to invite them over for dinner and asking them to come teach a course on the Constitution in their community, or help them on their farm or their ranch or in any other thing that they need help with. I believe this. I'm confident of this. I have no doubts these men will be acquitted. Please don't let that deter you from coming and supporting them, because they desperately need the support, and the prayer is still just the same.
There's going to be some long next 3 months or so, and we have ups and downs with this, but today there was multiple jurors that mentioned the First Amendment and the Second Amendment, mentioned the Constitution. These are just potential jurors now. These are not jurors that have been chosen yet. We have lost jurors that are bad jurors. We have lost good jurors today that have been excluded and sent home. But we still have a lot of jurors there that haven't been, that we're still picking from. The next 2 days, we're still going through another couple hundred jurors. So it's going to be some long days. But this first batch of jurors are most likely the ones we're going to get our jurors from. But these others we still got to go through the process. So right now we still have 45 plus jurors sitting in there that are potential jurors, and we're going to get 16 jurors with the 4 alternatives before it's over with here. One of these jurors here made a pretty interesting statement about law enforcement today and how he's been treated.
Yes, so the quote was, it was actually the prosecution that was asking the question, and they said, how do you feel overall about law enforcement? And he picked out one of the jurors. It was juror number 3. And he said sometimes he feels they can be a little bit heavy-handed. He doesn't have a bias against them or towards them. He just feels sometimes they can be a little heavy-handed. He said, can you give me an example? This was just great. He said, sure, I can give you an example. I showed up here today, and there was 5 or 6 police officers. When I went to come up the steps, they all glared at me. And he said, okay. And he says, but when I walked by all the protesters, they didn't. So that's my example.
It was almost like Judge Navarro stating that one of the defendants in the last trial gave her the evil eye.
Yep.
And, same scenario here, same situation.
Yep. Here we often have some of the guards here saying, oh, we need to protect the jurors, and treating it as though we're going to do something aggressive towards them. And here today, without the officers knowing who was a juror and who was a supporter, their true colors showed, and you know, the supporters' true colors also came through, showing who we are and what we're here for versus what they're here for. So I thought that was unfortunate for the prosecution that had to happen and come out in court before all those other jurors, but it was also right in line with what I said on the last live stream about how it feels to be surrounded by guards that are talking and on their, you know, on their mics and following you. It's very, very intimidating. And the jurors felt that. Exactly.
We don't want to forget to talk about Ryan Bundy today and his detention and their clothing that they're wearing and their treatment. Ryan Bundy got an opportunity today to talk about that to these potential jurors and said, I don't want you to judge me because of what the clothes I'm wearing. I really wasn't offered a shave. I've been trying to get a shave, and they shut.
What he specifically said that was actually totally in line is that he said he hadn't had access to a razor, nor had he showered. It was very simple, and he was just letting them know that that hadn't happened. He didn't go on and on looking for sympathy. He didn't talk about his detainment or his treatment. And the judge turned around as she sat with her hand on her face and said before the jurors, Mr. Bundy, Ryan Bundy said, I apologize, I haven't had access to a razor or a shower in 7 days, so my appearance would be better otherwise. She said to the jurors, Mr. Bundy was given the chance to wear his own clothes and to comply with security measures. And the whole attitude was literally like she was arguing with her kid at home. She was tired. Her feet were up on the couch. She was annoyed because her husband wouldn't make her any popcorn. And she's going to take it out on her kid now and let the friends know next door that her kid is nothing but a big louse. That's how she acted, and it's so embarrassing to have a federal judge behave that way in court and not want the jurors to have any sympathy. So she's going to pipe right in and let them know that Mr. Bundy could have complied. That was very telling of her attitude towards these defendants. She is another prosecutor sitting on the judge's bench. She's not an unbiased person in this matter that like she should be as a judge. So that was unfortunate, but Ryan Payne's attorney spoke up for Ryan later and said she felt that was out of line and will create a concern or a bias as to what these issues are with security measures that she told the jury about.
She made the statement. She said, I want to correct the bench, correct them on how their attitude was towards the jurors in front of the jurors like that. And then she went ahead and kind of dismissed that and went ahead and started to reprimand Ryan, which gave Ryan then an opportunity to talk for quite a while and tell the judge what's going on. You're not listening to the whole story here, Your Honor. You're not there. You're not in our situation, detained, without this shower, without all of our paperwork to work with here. All you got to do is send us home. All of this is unnecessary, he said, by pointing around at all the marshals. We will be here tomorrow if you let us go.
He did also, he got his leg irons removed to question the jury, and then later was able to make the statement before just the judge without the jury present, that the leg irons are very uncomfortable, they hurt, the marshals are literally standing up everywhere in everybody's face, the whole courtroom feels like it's in lockdown because Ryan Bundy has taken off his leg irons. And he was able to express to the judge how unnecessary all of this was. This elevated force that was coming on was completely unnecessary. She completely dismissed him and made the point to get on the record to compliment him on his nice haircut and to say, Mr. Bundy's haircut is even better than all of the attorneys. We are now off the record. And Ammon's attorney, Morgan Philpott, tried to say something regarding the treatment, and she interrupted him and said, we are off the record, it's 5:30 and I have things to do.
And she dismissed court for today after that.
So to back up just a little bit about this treatment, because I want to capitalize on this, in the last few live streams we've said that the defendants refused to strip down below their undergarments for their strip search, Ammon and Ryan, when they were transferred. It wasn't just that, they were also going to be subject again to a cavity search. Now, I don't know about you, but I would assume if he had anything, any cavities of his body would have had to come from a guard. He has not left custody. He was being transferred from Pahrump. They were all Pahrump to Henderson, and now they want to do more cavity searches. Out here in the streets in Las Vegas, this would be called rape. If I told somebody in order for them to cross the street, they had to pull down their pants and let me put one of my fingers up their anus and make sure nothing was in there to make sure they were safe. This is how pre-trial detainees are being treated. By the time they are released, they will have been sexually assaulted more times than most Americans ever face in their nightmares. And so even if they're acquitted at the end of all of this, they have suffered for 21 months being sexually molested and denied the right to see their family and witnesses and to prepare for trial. And this is a huge, huge deal that people need to understand so that they can see what these guys are up against. And it's not just, well, you'll get your day in court. You're going to be abused every step of the way until you get there. And in fact, Ammon and Ryan are still in holding cells. They have not had a change of clothes. They have not had a shower because they will not allow the guards to put their fingers up their bottom. Now, in the day and age we live in, I got on a plane and flew and walked through a little scanner and nobody had to put their fingers up any of my body parts. So why we're still doing this to pretrial detainees who are presumed innocent unless found guilty, you can only feel that it is a punishment, that they're trying to make sure that they get their pound of flesh out of these guys.
And he made that, he said, we have been punished. This is a punishment that we're going through, the way we've been treated. This is not presumed innocent. And Ryan told that. The judge totally dismissed it.
Completely. She said every detainee in every courtroom all over the country has to subject themselves to this. If you would do this, then you would have your razor too. Also keep in mind these men are sitting at a table with pens everywhere, with computers, with laptops, with water bottles, all kinds of things that could be used as a potential weapon. And yet, unless somebody injects a finger up a butthole, we don't know if these men are safe to be in court, and yet they're in court today anyway. So what are we really doing here? It was already proven that we didn't need to check them out like this because they were in court, nobody was harmed, nothing was removed from their body parts. So it's clearly just absolute punishment that they are doing this to these men, and I commend them and I say hats off to them because it does matter how you stand, and they are not willing to comply with unconstitutional, abusive, sexually immoral laws, rules, codes, and restrictions, and I commend them for that.
I wanted to mention one more thing back to the jurors real quick about juror number 38. Juror number 38 is no longer available, but this juror had some very interesting things that they had brought up on the questionnaire. And one of them was they automatically thought these guys were not guilty. The governments were thugs, that Harry Reid wanted the land for solar panels, that the DOJ does not believe in the Constitution. This is just one juror, and we had multiple jurors that were on this panel today. They said disband the BLM. We are the taxpayers. We own the federal government, and we don't trust the FBI. We had multiple jurors today, and most of these were all dismissed because
he also said this, that he believed.
And he believed that Lavoie was murdered. This is what that juror number 38. These are the type of jurors we had today. We had multiple jurors raise their hand up in the air when they had asked questions about, do they think the federal government was overreaching and abusing the people, about protesting. Jurors were asked questions about that. I feel really good about these jurors today, and we had pulled a great pull of jurors. 2 jurors were dismissed because of the recent shooting. They got rid of both of them.
Oh,
yeah, they got rid of both of those.
2 were at the shooting.
The 2 that were at the shooting.
That's good.
One of them was in the hotel that was evacuated. Another one was in another building there at the Mandalay. They was both there, and both those 2 ended up getting. And that was a sad story that those 2 had to say and talk about today. And they got dismissed on good cause.
So did they end up removing the juror that said that she had already formed an opinion, she believed that they were guilty, and the judge said, I think it's too early to tell if we should remove her.
That one hasn't been removed yet.
Has not been removed. This person said, I have already formed an opinion, I already believe guilt, and I believe that I will not be able to be swayed away from that. Now, was that the Review Journal?
That's the Review Journal.
So we have the wife of a man who is an editor at the Review Journal in Las Vegas.
And she works there too,
editing the things, but she saw all the reviews on Clive and Bundy, but she promises she never read them. But she's formed an opinion and believes they're guilty, and it's too early to remove her, the judge says.
But they removed juror number 38 because she was supposedly biased.
Right, she was biased because she said Lavoie was murdered, but this woman who says they're guilty, we should probably ask her some more questions, right?
Yes, we definitely should.
That's called some serious desperation in this judge. She's just wanting to hold on to anybody she can that'll get them.
Her number is juror number 66. So
That's kind of scary. Okay, let's see.
one thing I want to do is I want to give a shout out to Andrea Parker. We are missing her right now.
Miss Andrea.
She has been so awesome through this last year. I know she's probably glad she can be home and rest, but we are missing Andrea Parker, and but thank you for everything you've done for the last several months, and it was heartfelt, and it was great to have you down here. So.
Yeah, we miss you, and we love you guys. We're thankful for Eric's stand that he took, and that he hung in there for 2 trials. One last thing that I'll add is after Ryan Bundy got done speaking, he wanted to know if any of the jurors would be swayed by his face. And he explained that he had been run over by a car when he was a child, which he didn't do that in Oregon. I was really proud of him for doing that. And having the courage to face them and say, would it be difficult for you to look at me and listen to what I have to say based on my face? After he was done, the prosecution got a few minutes to come back up, and his first question was, has anything you've heard today with the defendants that you've heard from made you to feel sympathetic towards any of the defendants? And I just thought, good night. Are we going to do this every day of the trial when one of them speaks? Wait, has somebody become biased? It will always be biased if they are becoming sympathetic or agreeing with the defendants over the prosecution.
This new prosecutor, he does a lot of copycatting of the defense attorneys. So as them defense attorneys will say something, when he gets back up, he copycats kind of what they do.
Yeah.
So we're getting a repeat from last time. They haven't showed any evidence in the last 2 trials to convict any of these men properly. It's all been made up, fabricated stuff, and they're doing the same thing again so far, already trying to stage these jurors and put things in their mind.
Yep. One other thing he put in the mind of the jurors, the prosecution.
Can you guys get a little closer to the helicopters?
Okay.
They can't hear.
One other thing that was said was the prosecutors asked the entire jury group, does anybody here think it is okay to bring a gun to a protest? And unanimously in that question, now they did break it down and ask individuals, unanimously they all agreed no, there was no reason. Now, to the ones who were shaking their head more staunchly than the others, he went and asked follow-up questions. You know, well, what if, the defense, when they got up there, Ryan Payne's attorney asked follow-up questions. Well, what if they're within the law? Don't they have a right to go to a protest? But a few of them were still saying, but yet it doesn't seem like there's a purpose to bring a gun. So while they did speak of the Second Amendment right, they spoke of the NRA, they spoke of the Constitution, when you get down to the nitty-gritties, people say they believe in the Second Amendment, but they really don't understand what that means. They don't understand. They go, the Constitution is good. You should never bring a gun to a protest. And it's, you know, to me, that was just an overall message of a lack of education in our country that we're going through right now. That's really our suffering and our struggle right now. Because 2 years ago, I would have said the same thing. I believe in the Constitution. Leave your guns at home. And now I say, if you believe in the Constitution and you're fighting your federal government, you think they're going to harm you, you better have some way to defend yourself, or it's going to be another Waco. And I think that's exactly why Bunkerville wasn't another Waco, is because the people there were able to use self-defense if it was needed. Thankfully, it wasn't needed. Oftentimes, if you have it, you don't end up needing to use it. You don't have it, you wish you would have, because you might have needed to use it, like with Waco. So, yeah, we got an education issue in this country.
Sorry about all the noise. They're just helicopters and air traffic going over here, but
We're asking about Ammon Bundy, and if we have any information on him.
They're still in the holding cells. They both look like half the men that they were 2 years ago. Like we said earlier, Cliven
lost a lot of weight. Awful
from the back, like a little old frail man. Nods off a lot throughout this process. It's really sinful what these people are doing to these individuals who have never committed a crime or harmed anybody. Ammon and Ryan are not going to comply with a cavity search, nor should they allow somebody to put their fingers up their bottoms just because they were transferred by marshals from one location to the next. There's just no reason for that to happen. So who knows, this whole trial, Ammon and Ryan might sit holding cells at Henderson Detention Center because that's what they think is okay if you don't comply with all of their rules. And a quick note that the first night they were there, they left them in the holding cells with nothing. So they slept on the concrete, no blanket, no pillow, No, nothing. And it was actually, it sounds like a chaplain who brought them in a thin little foam pad that they're now sleeping on with a blanket.
And that's the area they're still staying on.
Yep.
And it's already started trial. They have no bed in this little holding.
They haven't changed their clothes since they left Pahrump.
Yep.
And this is a fair court in the United States of America.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Well, thanks a lot for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow again. We'll give you some more reporting.
Yes, you should.
There's still a lot of air traffic and noise. I hope you all heard us okay. We'll let Bran here blow his shofar one more time here real
got
good.
a couple requests.
Yeah, go ahead, Bran. So thanks a lot for joining us. It's getting dark out here. It's getting dark early. And keep praying for us. Show up if you can. We have plenty of time the next couple of months to come and go and show up. And someone donated 2 flags today, I was told by Carol Bundy. So we'll give you guys notice when we do that. We're gonna go out there and put these flags up out there at the Bundy Ranch on them flag poles sometime here in the next couple of weeks. We'll get a date set and on a Friday or a Saturday. And invite a lot of people to go out there, maybe see the wash area again, see parts of the Bundy Ranch, and see where this all began back in April 12th of 2014. So God bless everyone, and thanks a lot.
Bye, guys.
See you tomorrow.